Before we start, could we just clarify, Commissioner Gary, you are in another state and you are in your car. Is that correct? And is the other state across a water body? You're on mute, but.
There we go. Yeah, I'm on Maui. My family's walking around Lahaina.
Well,
I'm in the car.
Thank you very much for doing this. But you're not driving, is that correct?
I am not. No, I'm parked.
Okay, so we are now live in a public session.
I'm just going to wait until my clock says 5 o'clock because I'm supposed to.
I'm going to go ahead and. And Commissioner Shepard, we have Eric Stasek here. He is going to give some comments during public comment portion of the agenda.
Great. All right, that's 5 o'clock, so we can get going here. I will call this meeting of the Port of Hood River Commission to order. Are there any modifications to this agenda from staff?
President Shepard, there's one, and it relates to item B on the consent agenda. And I'm going to read the recommendation from General Counsel and then ask Counsel to clarify it if it needs to be clarified. So instead of this consent item regarding a lease, the recommendation to the commission is to authorize an amendment to the FHWA lease to allow termination effective January 14th. And subject to that amendment, approve a lease with Crestline for the same space.
That's fine. I would just add the year January 15th, 2002 or 2022, excuse me.
Right. And so this simply relates to this particular transfer of the lease with between FHWA and Crestline and the proper termination of the Crestline of the FHWA lease. So if the commission wishes to, they could authorize such an amendment and an action. And since it's fairly simple, it just needs to be documented properly, that they leave this to staff and General Counsel to work on and finalize.
Got it. Okay, I didn't receive anything from commission.
Ben, excuse me,
yeah.
You might make sure everybody knows what commissioners are present, that we have a quorum.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we do have a quorum. Commissioners Chapman, Gehring, and Shepard are here this evening. All right. We do have a guest joining us for public comment. Can we please allow him to speak whenever he's ready?
Hello. Coming through?
Hi, Eric. We can hear you just fine.
Hi, Ben. Thank you. Thanks to all of you for allowing me to present this request for just an inquiry of whether it would be possible to have additional food service options for visitors and community participants down at the waterfront during the summer months. So the documentation that you've received show a layout of the 400 Parkway Drive area, and the idea of possibly being able to install a temporary food pod during the summer on that stretch is an idea that may be worth pursuing in terms of just a initial inquiry. Not certain what the requirements may be, zoning, infrastructure, et cetera. Something simple that would serve our local local Hood River participants as well as tourists.
That's excellent, Eric. Thank you. And you've been in touch with staff regarding this?
With Greg, yes. Greg received my phone call, just inquiring about possibilities on the waterfront. And we talked very in a limited way about what possibilities there may be. I didn't know whether my first query was about the green space near Ferment that is so attractive. And what the requirements were to perhaps be able to participate there. But then we talked about what might be possible in other locations, if at all.
Perfect. Well, we typically don't make decisions like this in the meeting, but we will chat about it.
I understand.
We'll be getting back to you at some point with this once we've had a chance to chat about it. Are we going to see a remedy cafe on the waterfront? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, a scaled down version that would be something that would be appropriate and offer some more healthy food there on the waterfront.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate you bringing this to us tonight. And
thank you as well.
Staff will be getting back to you.
I appreciate that very much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for making the waterfront such a special place.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good night.
Okay, we now have a little recognition that we're going to do. Michael, would you like to take that?
Well, this is totally anticlimactic. Fred had to leave tonight, and in a Zoom format, it's difficult to convey the proper thanks upon his retirement. So we handled that on Friday with several gifts and a potluck, and thanks to Commissioners Chapman and Shepherd for stopping by. I know staff always really appreciates that. And so I felt we had a really good send-off for Fred. He's still around and we'll be here through next week. And if you approve it, we'll have him under some contract to reel him back in for certain tasks. But I hope Fred we're happy for his retirement. And Fred, I think, felt like that we had a wonderful send-off for him. We're going to miss him and his expertise, but he'll be part of the transition, and I'm glad for that.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the consent agenda, and what we'll need is a motion to pass the consent agenda with the amended FHWA lease language, and basically just, I think, if I'm correct, acknowledgement that staff can go ahead and move forward with that. Would that suffice as far as language?
It's two parts. It's the amendment of the FHA lease to terminate the lease, and it's authorizing entering into a lease subject to the FHA lease being terminated with Crestline commencing January 15th, 2022.
Okay.
Okay, then I make a motion to approve consent agenda with the changes in the Crestline lease as per legal counsel.
I have a motion. Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair is aye. Consent agenda passes. I did not receive any requests for additional information on informational reports, so we can move directly into a bridge replacement project cost estimate update. Kevin.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. I'm going to give a real brief presentation. We have received the final draft a document from WSP. If you recall, back in September 7th, the port approved an amendment to WSP's contract to produce this updated preliminary cost estimate. And all of the documents can be found on the port's bi-state working group page. And this is a big deal because it produced the number for an updated figure for the bridge replacement. There had been a lot of questions about what it was going to cost for the new bridge. And this report certainly gave us a much more detailed, albeit very early in the process. We're only 5% engineering. And so there's certainly a lot of assumptions that have been made in this document. So just to recap the purpose of the contract extension with WSP, was just to review a whole number of assumptions related to the cost estimate, and assuming certain bid items like what it's cost per unit of steel, unit of concrete, update all of those figures, the construction method, inflation. I mean, with recent inflation, there was quite a bit of discussion about what the escalation percentages should be. And then, of course, identifying risks. And I think that the way that WSP produced this document, and certainly Commissioner Fox and Chapman and members of the Bi-State Working Group really oversaw this progress. And this document that is being produced or is produced will easily be able to change. So as unit prices change, as assumptions change, all we have to do is go in, change those assumptions, and we don't have to rebuild the document from scratch again. So some of the deliverables that you can find on the Bi-State Working Group website is all of the assumptions on the project, the updated cost estimate with the report. KMC, you'll notice that there's an acronym KMC. They were WSP's subconsultant on the cost estimating. They were charged with getting the rates on new materials, surveys for material costs, those types of things. There's an updated risk register. There's a new construction schedule, and then a overall memorandum. And so those will be finalized in mid-June with an executive summary and placed on the website. So just to go through very quickly on a lot of these assumptions, this document is really just one way to build the project. So for example, I'm not going to go through all of these items unless the commission would like me to, but one that I would like to draw your attention to is the design, bid, build, delivery method. So for the sake of this PCE, we assumed a traditional project delivery method. So very well could end up that a design build or CMGC or some alternate contracting method would make more sense to move forward with, but that's not the assumption in this document. It assumes that the right-of-way acquisition and some of the staging and construction areas have been identified on port property. And it also has placeholders for commitments for tribal agreements and other things that haven't been firmed down yet and certainly can be a major part of the project moving forward. The revised cost estimate was really a revisit of prior work. So almost 2 years ago, another company by the name of Mott MacDonald did a low-end cost estimate, and then WSP also did an earlier cost estimate about 18 months ago as part of the NEPA process. But this contract really dove much deeper into those high-risk, high-dollar areas, things like barge availability and access were really looked at. Not every single element was studied in this process, in this PCE, but really the high-risk elements. And we also identified the key milestones that are going to be required in order to meet those in-water work windows. So I mentioned that the in-water work windows. So the construction schedule is a big component of this entire project. And the in-water work window, which is a negotiated window with National Marine Fisheries and the state and federal fish and wildlife agencies, really is intended to make sure that work that happens in the Columbia River is at a low impact period for the various fisheries, primarily during reproduction cycles and those types of things. So the only time of the year where in-water work can take place is between October 1 and March 15th. And so really that ends up being a driving milestone, and everything kind of works around that. The cost estimate works in weather delays, so that's been taken into consideration. In addition to a design schedule going up to the 30% that we currently have funded with the $15 million, and other ancillary processes that are required to get this bridge built. The notice to proceed for construction is December 1, 2026. And that is a key milestone for meeting that first in-water work window in October of 27. So that's when we want to be issuing that notice to proceed in early December of 26, with the new bridge being open to traffic September 30th, and then the demolition soon thereafter. So the memorandum that WSP produced, this is just a summary of what their deliverables were. Includes the construction costs, including contingencies. This is about a 30% contingency, which is usual for a low level of engineering. Sales tax is included in the cost items, so you won't see a single line for sales tax. That's actually worked into the unit price. And one of the assumptions is that the engineering will be a 6% cost of construction, and then post-design services about 2%. I mentioned the contingencies. One thing that's unique or different about this cost estimate compared to the earlier versions, this includes all of the programming and all of the non-construction, non-engineering related costs. So this includes what's the cost of obtaining the financing, what's the cost of obtaining the right-of-way, the replacement bridge management contract efforts, the relocation of the port administration buildings, and any additional costs, staff costs that the port would be putting in. This now rolls all of those costs into a singular document. And so it's a much more comprehensive and accurate vision of what this cost would be. And so with that comes the most interesting part of this, and that's the actual cost for the project. And so with this preliminary cost estimate, WSP, with the various assumptions, has this coming in at just under $500 million, which is a much larger number than we had been using in the past. But I would say that this is a much more complete, much more comprehensive cost estimate than, frankly, the port has ever seen in the 20-year effort for this project. And so it's, I think, going to be very helpful to have this document set up in the way that it was fashioned. We will be producing a smaller executive summary, and I'll be sure to send that to the commission and the bi-state working group. But for the most part, this completes the contract that we had with WSP to produce this updated cost estimate. So if you have any questions or thoughts, I know I had concerns about that final dollar amount, but I think it's good for us to know what this is as early as possible, so that we can go into the legislative cycles with a very accurate number. And I think everybody that was involved with this process feels that this is a much more accurate number than we had before.
Excellent. Thank you, Kevin. I just have one comment. I reached out to the Bi-State Working Group, Commissioner Fox, to get any comments since he wasn't going to be here. And by and large, he's very happy. And the Bi-State Working Group seems to be very happy with progress here. The two notes were the location of the new port office, which we have addressed as a concern, and the probably more, it's not pressing, but the one we're going to talk about is the 4% escalation. Is that adequate? Which is something that I think you'll be learning more about quickly, but I'm guessing that's probably more like a 6% number, but we're going to see. But those are the two comments, but by and large, seem to be very happy with the progress. So good work.
Yeah, and just a lot of appreciation for Commissioner Fox. He was just so involved in this and just really asked great questions and really led the discussion. And so I think the quality of this product is in part because of Commissioner Fox's involvement.
Yeah, I also wanted to give kudos to everyone involved because it was such a robust project, and also a special thanks to Commissioner Fox, and there was also a lot of input as well from Commissioner Anderson over in Klickitat County. So I just want to recognize his volunteer time for how in depth you guys got. So kudos to everyone.
So that's all I have. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to share the PCE with the commission.
Yeah, thank you for all the hard work, Kevin.
Sure. Merry Christmas.
Okay, Michael, Executive Director's report.
You're muted, Michael.
Oh, sorry about that. So the first item is, and attached to my report is a summary from fall planning. This is work that all of us on staff have put together, trying to distill down what the key takeaways, what the implied or specifically identified next steps are. This is a draft. That's a long meeting. These are not official minutes at all. It's intended to be a summary of takeaways. So I'd ask each of the commissioners, those in attendance and those that aren't, to look at this and make sure that from a summary standpoint, this reflects what we should be looking ahead to do to carry out, whether it's a specific study or information or a follow-on work session. Just a couple of details. Because of the holiday schedule, the office will be closed this Friday and the following Friday, and open the following Mondays. And if you get any questions, especially for commissioners, the toll booth by tradition is closed, and the hours, we close at 8 o'clock on Christmas Eve, and we open it up at 6 a.m. on the 26th. So the Breeze By system is still operational. They won't see lights. People will they'll be, their crossing will be identified, but they won't be billed for it. So sometimes we get questions about, why are you still charging Breeze By? We're not. It's just captured and reconciled through the invoicing process. And then I also wanted to point out that the SDAO annual conference is February, and this is a really, really good opportunity to meet other elected officials, other commissioners with special districts. This year, they're going to be an in-person, well, at least they think they'll have an in-person version, but also a remote way to Zoom in and a kind of a hybrid conference. So I would recommend that each commissioner look at their calendar and see if they can participate in all of that. You can choose specific orientation or educational seminars, and they're always very well done. I'm going to leave it there and see if there are any questions.
Anything for Michael? Oh, I saw something in there. Congratulations to our new Deputy Executive Director.
Yes.
Thank you. It's an honor to serve.
And that official position will begin January 2nd. So coming up, I'm really, really pleased that Genevieve responded. She's going to be a great help in with her new responsibilities. And I'll be able to leave the office more, and there will be someone to step immediately into my place.
And there was a mention, I believe, in there as well as potentially having a facilities director, but I didn't see anything there yet. So I'll just wait.
I'm very hopeful. We're still in negotiations. So.
Excellent. Well, both would be amazing decisions. So good job, and thank you everybody for all you're doing. All right. Do we have an airport committee? Anything, Commissioner Gary, this evening?
I don't have anything. You would check with Greg.
Happy to give a report. So the Airport Advisory Committee, they met on the 16th, and just to give a little bit of a backup, the last meeting was on the 18th of November, and part of the discussion was on updates or possibility for updates to Ordinance 23 and or the AGLA rules. Staff met with the AAC on the 1st of December for a special session to discuss just that topic. And largely it was separated into trying to avoid rewriting any of the AGLA rules because of the sensitivity of that feature, which largely leaned towards a informational campaign, and which there was a trifold that was reviewed last time. There's still some updates. And so ideally there will be some information to share with you on a informational campaign. It's very low impact, but it wouldn't require any updates to the AGLA. But what did come out of this last session was a formal recommendation from the AAC to update the Ordinance 23. The president has provided some, president of the AC, I'm sorry, or the chair, pardon me, provided some updates, some suggestions. Those were provided to PAE so they could review for its, just for how effective it is and what kind of changes it might include for the operations at the airport. Coming out of that, assuming it's going to take a legal review before it comes before the board. But this is a subject that they've talked about at length. Apparently, the AAC feels that there's information in that document that's no longer valid or it needs to be updated or revamped. Further along, the individuals requested that they could have their AAC meeting, or we could host it here at the port conference room. And staff will review schedules and provide that as an opportunity as much as it's available. Currently, it's being hosted by the FBO. Hood River Soaring presented a proposal for a staging area at the south end of 25, which is on the east end of the airport. And this would provide them with better operational queuing that wouldn't obligate the runway for them and keep people from being able to land or take off. That was also provided to PAE for a good look to see if it's feasible and its viability. And lastly was just a little bit of a side note. It sounds like Julie Benton from WAM has announced a retirement, which the fallout from that is the possibility that John Benton, who is the WAM representative, he might be moving, or he might no longer be available for those meetings. And so they discussed the necessity for a possibility of replacement. And that's about it from this last AAC meeting.
Thank you. Any questions for Greg? All right, appreciate it. I don't believe that we have any action items this evening, nor did we really have any directives that we need to confirm at the moment. So are there any items from commissioners that you'd like to address? Commissioner Chapman?
Not really address. I did zoom in on the last Visit Hood River meeting, and they're, seeing seasonality changes, obviously. And one of the things that they did talk about was trying to make some projections, and it was suggested by Commissioner Babbitts that maybe we help them by giving them access to some bridge numbers so that they can forecast some assumptions on how many bridge users there are. I guess it's a helpful predictor of tourism. But other than that, that's it. That's all that they really have to say. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Garing.
Nothing for me.
Okay. Nothing from me either. So that will bring us to the end of our regular session. And I will recess that regular session at this time. And we will enter executive session under RS 192.6602E